stealing from clients.
A federal lawsuit accuses a California lawyer of living the high life in Las Vegas, all on the company dime.
Harassing witnesses.
Requested a witness to perjure himself on behalf of her client in a pending criminal case.
And lying even under oath.
Court for conspiracy to commit perjury in his client Andre Collins' murder trial.
Sometimes even defenders of the public end up needing a defense for themselves. There have been numerous cases where attorneys and lawyers have been caught trying to sway a ruling in favor of their clients, or even themselves. But no matter how smart they think they are, it never ends well for them. In today's video, we're going to talk about cases of cops arresting attorneys. Number 1, Hal Yurig. In 2021, the arrest of a high-profile attorney made headlines all over the country. Hal Yurig, the man that represented George Zimmerman in the Trayvon Martin shooting incident, was arrested on charges of soliciting to commit perjury, among others,
and tampering with a witness or victim.
Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez said that the attorney Hal Yurig took on a case representing a man named Krishnath Prasad. His client had been charged with raping a girl when she was only 9 years old. Yurig is accused of holding a meeting with his client, the victim, and the victim's father. The goal of this meeting was to try to cut a deal that would allow Urig's client to avoid jail time. In their meeting, Yurig instructed the victim and her father to do 3 things. Write a declination, basically a letter, to the state attorney saying the rape didn't happen. Avoid being served with a subpoena so you don't have to go to court and testify, and lie during your deposition and say the rape didn't happen. Officer Lopez went on saying, Mr. Prasad committed the sexual battery at the time she was 9 years old, and this is what stemmed Mr. Yurig to work a deal out with the victim to try and get Mr. Prasad off on a lesser charge. But that sexual assault battery case will go to trial, and along with that, this will be a separate trial against the attorney. Despite being pressured, the victim came forward and reported Yurig's conduct to the state attorney's office in July 2021. As soon as the victim reported her claims, Osceola County deputies started an investigation against Prasad's attorney. The victim's father did a controlled phone call with the attorney, Mr. Yurig, and he said he couldn't talk about this over the phone, any specifics, so we wanted to meet in person, Lopez said. Officials say the victim's father was wearing a recording device when he met with Yurig. During the meeting, the attorney made him turn off his cell phone and told the father to read a script off of his computer screen. Officer Lopez said the script appears to be his defense for when he goes to court on these charges. But little did they know that their plan will turn against them. Prasad was arrested back in 2019, and his case is now working its way through the court system. Yurig, on the other hand, is accused of soliciting to commit perjury, a third-degree felony, and tampering with and harassing a victim, which is a capital life felony. Given Yurig's 40-year-long attorney career, Sheriff Lopez believes that this wasn't the first time he would have done something like this. If you're an attorney, you've been practicing law for a long time, and there's no way you're going to jeopardize your career on something like this, especially at that age. It's retirement time, Lopez said. So I think that this wasn't his first rodeo. Unless someone else comes forward, we won't know that for sure, but that's what I suspect at this time. Number 2, Alexis Plunkett. This roller coaster of a case involves a Las Vegas attorney, Alexis Plunkett. The 38-year-old was indicted with 2 counts of conspiracy to unlawfully possess a portable communication device, plus 12 counts of possession of a portable telecommunication device by a prisoner. The charges came as a result of her visit to her client and boyfriend at the time, Andrew Arevalo. Arevalo was shot and wounded in 2014 by a high-state prison guard. He also faced felony and weapon charges and was awaiting trial. Plunkett represented the 28-year-old in his lawsuit against the Nevada Department of Corrections in connection with the shooting that left another man dead. During the visit, Plunkett was caught by the security cameras handing over her phone to Arevalo. Now, this is a felony and could have put her in jail for a year, but her case took a turn for the bizarre soon after.
Behind bars with no bail in a case that keeps getting more complicated by the day.
Although Plunkett and Arevalo started off as boyfriend and girlfriend, their relationship was going downhill. After her phone was examined by the police, the text messages uncovered that she was trying to put a hit on Arevalo.
Lawyers that she's going to have a hit taken out on Andrew Arevalo.
I've placed hits in every Nevada prison on Andrew with every homie and lifer I know, Plunkett wrote. This POS will never survive in prison. Now he's effed with the wrong B. I am not the one. I represent all the Serranos, Southerners, and he's gonna get it. Delete this. One of the people in the group asked Plunkett to not joke about committing a felony, to which she said, I'm not joking. That's why I said to delete it. He said he was gonna have me murdered, so I'll take care of business first. Her attorney, Adam Solinger, said the text messages in question reflected a client under severe stress,
Still show
simply
somebody
venting.
in a bad situation venting about it. It doesn't show a serious threat. Not to mention, I think the actions as outlined by the detective at the last hearing in January indicate that the police never took this seriously as a real threat.
Despite all of this, her 14-count indictment was initially dismissed by District Judge Michael Villani, and the case was going to trial.
For her charges for April 1st. Trial is firm. It's going forward. If you have any motions, file them now. This will not be moved.
But before that, something shocking happened. She was brought under arrest again, this time for charges of bribing or intimidating a witness, a felony, and preventing a person from testifying, a gross misdemeanor. She identified a potential witness on Facebook, calling her a snitch and a rat. Plunkett was not so lucky this time. The prosecution brought her old charges to the table again and called into question her text messages. Now she was fighting two cases at the same time. Ultimately, she was forced to cut a plea deal with the prosecution. The deal called for Plunkett to plead guilty to the cell phone charges in exchange for the bribery and intimidation charges being dropped.
It's not something that necessarily came from the state. It's something that she, after a night of reflection, decided that this is what she wanted to do.
Giving his thoughts, her lawyer said, "It's the choice that she made that's best for her, and I respect that. Ultimately, it came down to being tired of continued litigation. Fighting a war on two fronts takes a toll on you, and remaining in custody pending your trial and resolution of your other case is really hard to do." Plunkett pleaded guilty to one count of possession of a telecommunication device by a prisoner. She'd been ordered to serve 3 years of probation. The Nevada State Bar also suggested that Plunkett should be handed a suspension of 5 years and a day. But the Nevada Supreme Court was not satisfied. She ended up being disbarred. "We conclude that disbarment is appropriate to serve the purpose of attorney discipline to protect the public, the courts, and the legal profession," the justices wrote. Number 3, Christopher Reynolds. A Florida attorney named Christopher Michael Reynolds broke headlines for stealing over $800,000 from his clients. The 44-year-old personal injury lawyer was arrested earlier in February on charges of money laundering and grand theft. Reynolds started his private practice in Seminole back in 2015, representing victims of vehicle crashes. According to Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gultieri, at least 16 clients had their cases dealt with through Reynolds before they had their money stolen. The detectives first learned about the theft back in October when one of Reynolds' clients came forward. The client notified the authorities that her lawsuit for $100,000 had been settled months earlier, but that Reynolds never told her about it. The investigation team found out that Reynolds had forged the woman's signature on the legal documents and collected the money. But that money never got to the client, nor did it pay off her medical bills. This was a pattern for the Pinellas Park lawyer. Once he had settled his clients' cases, he'd disappear without a trace. He stopped picking up their calls and cut off any form of communication with his clients. The sheriff mentioned another incident where a lien was filed against another one of Reynolds' clients when they couldn't pay their medical bills. Investigation into the attorney's thefts reveals that he pocketed over $100,000 from multiple clients. His highest theft was $148,750 from a client in March of 2019. Sheriff Gultieri believes that the clients must have had quite serious injuries for the settlement money to be in the 6 figures. According to the sheriff, Reynolds spent his money on buying drugs. Apart from that, he spent over $30,000 on an OnlyFans subscription, about $400,000 on PayPal, and $24,000 on Uber. Reynolds has now been booked in Pinellas County Jail. He faces 13 counts of grand theft, including 1 count of grand theft from a client of 65 years or older. He's also charged with 2 counts of money laundering. When asked about his comments on the incident, Sheriff Gultieri said, "They're licensed to practice law. They've got the boxes checked. They've got the credentials. They've got the credibility that goes with that. And they're really just a thief who is ripping them off." While attorneys getting arrested isn't fairly common, it is still a problem to be reckoned with. Even public defenders slip up every so often, whether it be to protect their clients' interests or their own. Just goes to show that there are good and bad people everywhere. If you want to watch more such videos, subscribe to the channel as I have many more to share. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time.